every description was there, whether you believed or not. And this lady lit the candle, and we had 10 minutes, because they were afraid if the SS comes, they were guarding each an entrance to the barrack, to each couple. And then I can still see the scene, and this woman was sitting and lit the candle and started to read the Kol Nidre. Well, it happened in a place where we felt instead of God forgiving us, we should forgive God, because it was such a terrible place. And yet, everybody wanted to gather around this lady. And she said the Kol Nidre very, very slowly, so that everybody can repeat the words if they wanted to. But they didn't. But 800 women did nothing but cry. If you ever heard 800 women cry in unison, that was it. And yet, it gave solace to everybody. The fact that we remembered when Yom Kippur was, it somehow reminded people of their homes, because as you know, Yom Kippur is celebrated or even in the most non-practicing homes. Something happened to the 800 women. It's almost like their heart burst. And I never heard so much crying, such loud crying out of 800 women. And yet it did help to release something, it helped them to feel better. And even today, every time I go to Kol Nidre, that's all the Kol Nidre I can't shake it. That's the Kol Nidre that I always remember. That's all I wanted to tell you.
Today is Holocaust Remembrance Day, a day of sacred remembrance observed by Jewish communities around the world. Today, thousands of young people took part in the March of the Living, from Auschwitz to Birkenau, the largest Jewish graveyard in the world, in honor of the 6 million Jews and millions of other innocent victims murdered in the Shoah in Europe. Mordechai Gebeltig, born in Krakow in 1877, was a carpenter, but was known as the troubadour of the Jewish people. Gebeltig wrote Es brennt in response to a 1936 pogrom in the Polish town of Pshitik. In June 1942, Gebeltig was murdered by German soldiers. Es brennt will now be sung by Dudu Fischer, accompanied by Dror Alexander.
אחים שרפה, עיירתנו בוערה כולה, ברוחות שחות יישאו, להבות חורבן נבערו, עקבותיה לא נודעו, היא עולה באש, ואת מושט עזרה, בלי כבות את אש עליו, אש העיירה. Flames, bridalach, flames. Our little shtetl Nebuch burns. Winds of fire all around us, clouds of darkness are above us. As we watch our little shtetl swallowed by the flames. Where was the world? Where were the people when it all occurred? They walked away with hands in pockets. No one really cared. Spread, Brüderloch, spread. Oh, unsere Städte Nebuch brennt. Diese Winden mit ihr Gasen reißen, brechen und zu blasen. Starker noch die wilde Flammen als herum scheuen brennt. Und steht also und guckt sich mit verlegten Händen. Und steht und guckt also sich wie unser Städtel brennt. Es brennt, es brennt, es brennt. עוד אבינו חי. עם ישראל, עם ישראל, עם ישראל חי. עם ישראל, עם ישראל, עם ישראל חי. עם ישראל, עם ישראל, עם ישראל חי.
Please listen to a special message from the President of the State of Israel, Mr. Shimon Peres.
יקיריי, יש מצעדים שמודדים אותם לפי אורך הדרך. יש מצעדים שמודדים אותם לפי משך הזמן. אתם יוצאים למצעד שאין דוגמתו. זה מצעד בין השפל התהומי ביותר לבין הפסגה הנשגבת ביותר. השפל התהומי זה מעשה הנאצים. לא הייתה כתועבה הזאת בהיסטוריה. לנו הוכחדו 6 מיליון, אחים, אחיות, ילדות וילדים. עד היום הזה, כשאני רואה אתכם, עולות בעיניי התמונות של הטליתות, של השערות, של הנעליים, של ילדים ומבוגרים. שם מטורפים הנאצים האלה, הפשיטו הקורבנות. זה לא עניין של זיכרון או שכחה. דמם בדם זורם, ריח, עד היום הזה. לא נרגע. המרחק הוא גם לא כל כך גדול, זה קרה לפני 74 שנים. זה חלק מהביוגרפיה שלנו, לא חלק מההיסטוריה שלנו. עד היום הזה לא מילאנו את מה שנגדע מאיתנו. גודלו של העם היהודי היום הוא קטן ממה שהיה ערב המלחמה. הכאב, הפצע, המחסור עדיין קיימים. הם חיים בתוכנו, אנחנו חיים במה שקרה להם. זה נודע לנו, התמונה הזו, ב-1945, ביום שנגמרה המלחמה. ותוך זמן קצר, תוך 3 שנים, קרה לנו הנס הגדול ביותר, השיא, התקומה החדשה של העם היהודי, מדינת ישראל. היא קמה בניגוד לכל הממדים ולכל הנורמות. לא האמינו. במדבר, בעוינות, במחסור, בהתנגדות, במלחמות. ושוב העם היהודי טיפס למרומים חסרי תקדים. בין התהום לבין הפסגה אין מרחק. אחד הוא תוצאה מהשני. גבורתה של ישראל נובעת מגבורת בניה, אבל לבניה זורם. הכעס, היגון, הבל יומן שקרה לנו. תצעדו ברגליכם ולרגליכם, ילך איתכם כל העם. תרכינו ראש לזכרם, תרימו ראש למראה ישראל. זה מצד שאין דומה לו לשום עם ולשום מצב. צאתכם בשלום, שובכם בשלום. אנחנו נוסיף לזכור את הכאב ונוסיף לבנות מדינה שלא איבדה את תקוותה לתקן את העולם כולו. היו ברוכים.
I would like to make mention of a few special guests who have joined us this year. Ambassador Ronald Lauder, President of the World Jewish Congress and recipient of March of the Living's 2013 Global Ambassador for Jewish Renewal Award. The Chief of General Staff of the Polish Armed Forces, General Mieczysław Cieniuch. We applaud the courage of the delegation of wounded Israeli soldiers who are here as part of Edim B'Madim, the IDF's Witnesses in Uniform delegation, the largest ever to come on the March of the Living. We also welcome a delegation of Witnesses in Uniform from the Israeli police. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the courageous group of blind Israelis and their guide dogs from the Israel Guide Dog Center for the Blind. We are especially moved by your desire and your determination to attend the March of the Living. And finally, I want to thank all of you here today who have chosen to participate in the March of the Living, coming from countries all over the world, near and far to attend this very meaningful program. Rabbi Israel Meir Lau is the Chief Rabbi of Tel Aviv-Yafo, the former Chief Rabbi of the State of Israel, Chairman of the Yad Vashem Council, and a child survivor of the Holocaust. Rabbi Lau was liberated by American troops in April of 1945. He was only 8 years old at the time. Rabbi Lau has participated in every March of the Living program since its inception in 1988. He will now share his thoughts with us.
כי חילצת נפשי ממוות, את עיני מדמעה, את רגלי מדחי, את הלך לפני אדוני בארצות החיים. ראה עוניי והביטה, האר עיניי פן אישן המוות. גם כי אלך בגיא צל מוות לא אירא רע, כי אתה עמדי. Chief of Staff of the IDF, Rav Aluf Benny Gantz, Chief of Staff of the Polish Army, General Shinyok, Deputy Chief of the Israeli Police, Nitzav Israel Yitzhak, leaders of the March of the Living, sponsors, friends, members of the Direct, leaders of communities all over the world, parents, soldiers, students, ladies and gentlemen. Not very far from here, 70 kilometers about, there is a city called Bochnia, closer to Krakow. It was a Jewish city. August, September 43, the Nazi German made the last action to get the Jews of Bochnia to send them to their final way, here in Auschwitz-Birkenau. The children tried to escape and to hide themselves. One of them, a child of 6 years old, Aryeh Leib Blum, by himself. He lost his parents already. He tried to escape from the Gestapo. Then he discovered in the street, in a corner of two streets, a garbage can. He climbed up, entered into the garbage can, covered with the cover, and hid himself, and was listening all the time to the steps of the boots of the Gestapo with the barking dogs, looking after a child or another human being, a Jew. One of the police, of the Gestapo officers, saw this garbage can, said, maybe someone is hidden here. He came across, opened the cover, and saw a child. Leibale Blum, a child of 6 years old, stood up in the garbage can and forced himself to give a smile from one ear to the other. And from his pocket, in the garbage can, he offered the Gestapo officer a lollipop, a candy. That's what he had. It was his dearest thing he had, a candy, a lollipop. He offered it to the officer. No longer than 1 second, the answer was, the Gestapo man took out his pistol, put it close to the head of Leiberle Blum, shooted 1 bullet into his head and killed him, and the child fell dead in the garbage can. What a heroism. What a war. Today, according to the Hebrew date, the 28th of Nisan, is my birthday. I wasn't born in April 8 or in 28th of Nisan. But today, in the 28th of Nisan, that time was April 11, the American troops, led by General Patton, broke in the gates of Buchenwald and have liberated us after 6 years of horror in the dark tunnel. They opened the window to freedom, to life. And this is our birthday. Today, exactly today, 28th of Nisan, we are 68 years old. Few days later, the German people from Weimar, a city 10 minutes walk from Buchenwald, who said that they didn't know. They didn't listen. They didn't see the trains. They didn't see the ashes. They didn't see the fogs. They didn't see the smoke of the crematoria. From 1936 till 1945, they didn't see. 10 minutes walk from the gate of Buchenwald to the city of Weimar. They were invited into Buchenwald by the American authorities to show them the horrors, what happened here in the concentration camp. I was so lucky to be a very small child that time that an American officer lifted me up in his command car, in the eyes of all the Weimar people there, lifted me up in air and said, "Look at this child. He have endangered Germany. He have threatened you, Deutschland. Against whom did you declare the war? Against children of this age and this size? And this is now. The war was declared when he was even 6 years younger, only 2 years old. A shame on you." The question is, what happened since then? 68 years. For us, as President Peres said now, an enormous change. We have a home, an independent home. We have where to go back today or tomorrow. We will not stay here. We go back home. Words we couldn't dream 68 years ago, 70 years ago. We have a shelter. We have our nationality. We have our heritage. We have our power. Walking here from Auschwitz to Birkenau, the Israeli chief of staff and the rabbi together. This combination of power, physical power, and spirit of Jewish heritage with the Torah scroll, this combination is promising our immortality, our continuity, our eternity forever. ובזה אני מבקש לסיים. היום, לפני 68 שנים, שוחררנו בבוכנוולד. 68 בגימטריה, חיים. חטא, יוד, יוד, מם, חיים. זה 68. ואתם הדבקים בהשם אלוקיכם, חיים כולכם היום. זכינו לבנות מולדת. אנחנו היום לא זקוקים לאותה עזרה שנזקקנו לה אז לפני 70 שנה, כשהיא לא באה בזמן, כשהיא איחרה להגיע. וכשהציעו למי שהציעו לפוצץ את מסילת הברזל שעברנו בדרך הנה, כדי לעכב את הרצח של 50,000 יהודים מהונגריה ליום שהובלו הנה ברכבות, התשובה הייתה לא, no. יש לנו מלחמה עם גרמניה ולא יצאנו להציל יהודים או כל עם אחר. ננצח במלחמה, תיפסק השמדת היהודים. את מי יהיה עוד להציל? מי יישאר? זה לא הדאיג אף אחד. היום אנחנו לא במצב הזה. יש לנו בית עם כל הביקורת ועם כל התלונות. צריך לנשק את האדמה כשנחזור הביתה. לנשק את רגבי עפרה של ארץ ישראל. היא הארץ, היא הבית שזוקף את קומתנו, שמעניק לנו את החירות האמיתית להיות עם, עם עם תורה, עם עם מורשת, עם עם מסורת, עם שיוכל להצדיק את מה שנכתב על גיא ההריגה, במותם ציוו לנו את החיים. אמן.
The poet Hannah Senesh emigrated from Hungary to Eretz Israel in the 1930s. She lived on a kibbutz on the seashore near Caesarea. When the Second World War broke out, together with other Israelis, Hannah volunteered to fight the Nazis. She was trained by the British as a paratrooper and was dropped behind the Nazi lines in Europe. She was captured, tortured, and executed by the Nazis on November the 7th, 1944, at the young age of 23. She left us this wonderful poem, Eli, Eli.
Eli, Eli will now be sung by Neshama Karlbach and the March of the Living Choir. Neshama Karlbach was accompanied by Josh Nelson.
Hannah Senesh, the composer of Eli, was not the only one to lose her life resisting the Nazis. Throughout Europe, tens of thousands of Jews rose up to fight against the evil that had ensnared Europe. We now turn our attention to the story of Hugo Lowy and one act of spiritual resistance that took place only a few meters away from where we now stand, near the boxcar, on the spot to where so many Jews from all over Europe were forcibly transported, never to return. His exceptional story of spiritual heroism only came to light in recent years through a chance encounter, as you will see in the following video.
In the last year of the war, more than 400,000 Hungarian Jews were marched to their death in Birkenau. Each and every one had a story, but their stories went with them to the gas chambers. Some 50 years later, one of these stories has miraculously come to light.
Hugo Lowy is a story of a hero who was ready to sacrifice his life for his faith, for Judaism.
Hugo Lowy was an ordinary husband and father. A modest but devout Jew, he prayed every morning. Like many, he worried about protecting his family from the Holocaust engulfing Europe. As whole families began to disappear, Hugo moved his wife and children from their hometown on the Slovakian border to the relative safety of Budapest. But their fragile world crumbled in March 1944 when the Nazis invaded.
And the fear that gripped all of us of what's going to happen to us was kind of indescribable. It was all internal. Nobody screamed or cried, but the fear of what's going to happen to us.
The next day, Hugo went alone to the Budapest train station. hoping to find a way to get his family out. He was never seen again. Against the odds, Hugo's wife and children survived. In the months after liberation, they searched for him, but found nothing.
It invaded the space of my mother's sorrow. And she was a gentle soul. She very rarely smiled.
Hugo's wife died, never knowing what had befallen her husband. Then, in 1991, a chance meeting on the other side of the world brought a witness. Maya Lowy was no relation. But like Hugo, he'd gone to the Budapest train station on March 20, 1944. The two had been caught in a Nazi trap and taken to an internment camp outside the city.
My father told me that Hugo was kind of a leader. He was a real inspiration to the people that were there. He conducted the prayer services, and so he encouraged everybody to pray.
Hugo's faith sustained them as they were herded into wagons without food or water, the first transport of Hungarian Jews to the death camps.
My father and Hugo were together. They get grabbed and thrown out onto the platform.
And they were ordered to take their belongings, to drop it at the station there. Everybody did, and he didn't.
Hugo held on to his bag, and an SS guard grabbed it from him and threw it on the pile.
When the guard turned around, my father picked it up and brought it back.
There were all these people who were looking up to him, and they were warning him. And my father also said to him, "Don't do it, just leave it. Just leave the bag, just leave it." And my father told me that Hugo said, "I'm not going anywhere without my prayer shawl and my tefillin." And then he knew. He had to have known, what the outcome would be.
And then they beat him to death there and then. And the rest moved on.
This was his life. The tradition, the heritage, the faith. His belonging to the community of the Jewish nation was concentrated in those tefillin, in this bag. This makes him even more a model of Kiddush Hashem, sanctification of God.
Almost 500,000 Hungarian lives were erased from history under these grey skies. But it would take many years to find a monument to help mark this tragedy. An original wartime wagon restored by Hugo's family and returned here in a private ceremony. It is filled with the memories of all those it brought to this dark place. And something more.
Today we are going to return back the talents and tefillin of his son.
The Nazis didn't declare only a genocide against the Jewish people. They declared a war against the spirit as well. Hugo Lowy, in his brave last step, he overcame.
We would now like to introduce Mr. Frank Lowy, Holocaust survivor and internationally known philanthropist, and the son of the late Hugo Lowy, to share his feelings with us at this time.
A few months after my bar mitzvah, my father disappeared. We didn't know what had happened to him. In our apartment in Budapest, there was a couch under the window, and I would stand on it day after day, looking into the street, watching, waiting for my father to appear. In a way, I waited for almost 50 years. In all that time, I never forgot him, even in my dreams. As I slept, I would feel him bending over me, and I would wake relieved that he was there. And then confused that he wasn't. I had this dream on and off for almost 50 years. It was only when my family found out what happened to him that the dream stopped. Once I knew what happened, I wanted to do something. I wanted to honor his memory. I wanted to stand in a place where he perished so I could feel him. So here I am, with all of you in Birkenau. I know he was also here under the same sky, just like almost 500,000 Hungarian Jews. He came to this place in a wagon, and almost immediately after arriving, disappeared into the smoke in the sky. I was 13 when I lost my father, and now I'm 82, and you know, I still miss him. To the young people here today, I want to say that your mother and father always matter, even when you get to my age. And honoring your parents matters very much while they are alive and when they are no longer here with us. I still feel the loss of my father was something I have gained. You see, there were things about him that I did not know. I knew he was a good man, a good father, a religious Jew who believed in God. He worked as a traveling salesman, and he was a modest. I never realized that he had the strength, the spiritual strength, to take on the brutal guards here in Birkenau. No matter how hard they hit him, he protected the sanctity of his tallis and tefillin. They could break his body, but they could not break his spirit. The tallit and the tefillin were part of him, part of his relationship with God, and he was ready to die for them. And he did. He did so in front of his people who knew what was in the bag and who tried to stop him from protecting it. In front of them, he fought for his faith with a spiritual courage I never knew he had. You see, my father was an ordinary man. Extraordinary things, people do extraordinary things if they have it in them in the first place. Well, he certainly did. Hugo's legacy lives on in 4 generations. Beside me, his grandsons and great-granddaughter represent them here today. Also here today are 2 people who are important to my father's story. Alan Lowy, who you just saw in the film, the son of the late Meyer Lowy, who witnessed what happened to my father and told us the story. Meyer Lowy was not a relative. He was arrested with my father and became very close to him. He lived to tell the story. And Dr. Roland Huse from Germany, also here with us. We found the wagon that stands there at his museum, and he gave it to us to restore and place it here in Birkenau. 3 years ago, when the wagon was brought here, I had the privilege to place my own tallis and tefillin in the wagon to replace those torn from my father's hands. This helps to heal the brokenness of the past. Some 2 centuries ago, Rabbi Nachman Breslev taught that if you believe the world can be broken, then you know that can it also be fixed. Fixing means understanding what happened, healing the pain, and building a better future. The Nazis wanted not only to destroy the physical presence of the Jewish people, but to wipe us out spiritually as well and leave no trace. But look at us here today. Perhaps all those Hungarian Jews, including my father who disappeared into the sky, are looking down on us today. They see how young, how strong, and how full of promise all you are. They see the plan to break the crush on us has made us stronger. Throughout history, others have tried to destroy us, but none have succeeded. We are an eternal nation, bound together by our faith. Am Yisrael Chai.
"200 years ago, the Rabbi of Kalev wrote Zolakoko Shemar, his most famous composition, a song expressing the deep yearning for the redemption of the Jewish people and their return to the land of Israel. The song has given hope to Jews for centuries, and its melody was also heard even here in Auschwitz-Birkenau as the Hungarian prisoners arrived for the final journey. Zolakoko Shemar will be sung by Chazan Shimon Farkas and his son Dov, whose family roots are in Hungary. 3 of Shimon's grandparents perished here.
Zolakoko Shemar, moin megvirad már, zöld erdőben, sík mezőben, sétál egy madár. Zöld erdőben, sík mezőben, sétál egy madár. De micsoda madár, de micsoda madár. Zöld a szárnya, kék a lába, engem madár vár. Zöld a szárnya, kék a lába, engem madár vár. Várj, madár, várj, te csak mindig várj. Az Isten neked rendel
As the generation of those who witnessed the Holocaust advance in age, we must ask the question, who will remember and tell the stories of the Holocaust when the survivors are no longer able to? What will become of the memories is a song written by a child of Holocaust survivors and will be performed by the March of the Living Children's Choir and Neshama Karlebach.
I'm a very tired, old, worn-out man, and my eyes have long been blind. Most things people say to me just seem to slip my mind. Oh, but the suffering and the painful times that were in years long gone are still as clear upon my memory as the numbers on my arm. What will become of all the memories? Are they to scatter with the dust in the breeze? Who will stand before the world, knowing what to say when the very last survivor fades away?
When I hold my grandson close to me and his fingers trace the pattern of my tears, he asks me, Grandpa, tell me, why do you cry? What is it that who smelled this sweet and felt this warm. But he was taken from before my eyes, and only I remain to mourn. What will become of all the memories? Are they to scatter with the dust and the breeze? Who will stand before the world, wishes to deny they believe in someone who never heard the cries?
Josh Nelson.
What can I say or do to make things change? Time has a way of passing by so fast, and like a fleeting shadow, no one will recall the faces of the past.
What will become of all the memories? Are they to scatter with the dust and the breeze? But one thought gives me comfort, it's all that I have left. The God and the children, they won't forget. We won't forget. Please don't forget.
Ben.
This year, we mark 70 years since a small band of Jewish fighters launched the heroic Warsaw Ghetto Uprising on April 19, 1943. 13,000 Jews were killed in the ghetto during the uprising. Some 6,000 among them were burnt alive or died from other causes. The Germans had planned to liquidate the Warsaw Ghetto in 3 days, but the heroic ghetto fighters held out for more than a month. As we stand here today, we honor all those who led the uprisings in the ghettos, those who joined the partisan units in the forests, and those who rebelled in the concentration camps, even here in Auschwitz-Birkenau. Please turn your attention to a short video presentation honoring the tens of thousands of Jewish partisans and fighters who resisted Nazi tyranny during the Holocaust years. The video will be followed by the Song of the Partisans, which will be performed by Dudu Fischer and the March of the Living Children's Choir. Please rise as we honor the memory of these heroic men and women.
Warsaw, April 23, 1943. From outside of the city's Jewish ghetto, Poles can hear gunfire and see flames rising through the apartments beyond the wall. It's the 5th day of an uprising in the ghetto, an uprising that has surprised the Poles and shocked the Nazi officers charged with cleansing Warsaw of its remaining Jews. Inside the ghetto, hiding in a subterranean bunker at number 18 Mila Street, the 24-year-old military commander of the Jewish fighting organization, Mordecai Anilevich, scribbles a note to a friend. "Things have surpassed our boldest dreams," he writes. "The Germans ran away from the ghetto twice." But Anilevich is realistic. "I can't describe to you the conditions in which the Jews are living," he continues. "Only a few individuals will hold out. All the rest will be killed, sooner or later." The battle is a complete mismatch. 2,000 heavily armed German soldiers against 700 untrained Jewish teenagers armed only with pistols and gasoline bombs. Yet this lopsided struggle will last 28 days as a condemned people shakes off despair and embraces defiance in the simple hope of dying with dignity. It will go down in history as the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, the most stirring episode of armed resistance in Nazi-occupied Europe, and an example to future generations of unyielding heroism and courage. The final testament of Mordecai Anilevich is a letter sent earlier in the uprising to his deputy, Yitzhak Zuckerman. Anilevich wrote, "Peace go with you, my friend. Perhaps we shall meet again. The main thing is the dream of my life has come true. Self-defense in the ghetto and Jewish armed resistance have become a reality. I have lived to see the magnificent heroism of Jewish fighters in battle." But the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising was just part of the fabric of Jewish resistance.
We know today of 63 places where there were resistance groups. We know of roughly 20,000 Jews who fought in the forests. So this is not an isolated case, you see. Wherever they had the opportunity, and in some places where they didn't have the opportunity, they fought.
To live with honor and die with honor. It was their message to us all. They gave their lives for our freedom. Through pain and agony, fought for humanity. We'll keep their memory.
Soll mit kein Mal als du gehst den letzten Weg, Chotsch im den bleiene verstellen Bläuete, kommen wird noch unser ausgebäckte Show. Es wird verpeugt und unser Rot mit seinen Do. Kommen wird noch unser ausgebäckte Show. Es wird verpeugt und unser Trott mir singen do. Anatoma הנה דרכי האחרונה, את אור היום הסתירו שמי העננה. זה יום נחשפנו לו עוד יעל ויבוא, ומצעדינו עוד יראים אנחנו פה. זה יום נחשפנו לו עוד יעל ויבוא, ומצעדינו עוד יראים אנחנו פה. מארץ התנא עד ירכתי כפורים, אנחנו פה במכאובות וייסורים, ובאשר טיפת דמנו שם נקרא, עוד ינוב עוד עוז רוחנו בגבורה. ובאשר טיפת דמנו שם נקרא, הלא ינוב עוד עוז רוחנו בגבורה. Sag nicht keinmal, als du gehst dem letzten Feld. Sag nicht keinmal, als du gehst dem letzten Feld. Sag nicht keinmal, als du gehst dem letzten Feld.
During World War II, despite showing remarkable courage and heroism, Jewish partisans had little hope of defeating the overwhelming power of the Nazi war machine. Their one wish, their one dream was to die with honor. Today, thank God, there is a state of Israel that not only defends the citizens of Israel, but protects the welfare of Jewish people throughout the world. I would now like to call upon Lieutenant General Benjamin Benny Gantz, Chief of the General Staff of the Israel Defense Forces, whose mother was a survivor of Bergen-Belsen, to share his thoughts with us at this time.
הבט נא השמיימה וספור הכוכבים. אם תוכל לספור אותם, כה יהיה זרעך. בראשית תולדות עם ישראל מסופר שאלוהים הבטיח לאברהם אבינו, הדרך תהיה קשה. המסע יהיה רצוף אויבים וסכנות. אך בסופו של דבר תצלחו את המכשולים וידכם תהיה על העליונה. אתם תגיעו לארץ ישראל למודי שכול ומלחמה, ובידיים שאחזו במגן ובחרב תטעו עץ, תקימו בית. הצעד הראשון שעשה אברהם אבינו לאחר הברית הזו, כשבליבו ההבטחה, היה הצעד הראשון במצעד החיים. הצעד הראשון במצעד חייו של העם היהודי. במקום שבו אנו עומדים היום, לפני רגע קצר במושגי חייה של אומה, נשאו בני העם הזה את מבטם השמיימה אל אותם השמיים שבהם הביט אברהם. יחפים בכפור ובשלג, בשעתה האפלה ביותר של האנושות, לא הצליחו למנות את הכוכבים דרך עשן המשרפות. באותה שעה נדמה היה להם שמצעד המוות הוא סופו של המסע, שכל המאורות כבו. Holocaust survivors from Israel and the entire world, משפחות שכולות, הרב מאיר לאו, דוקטור שמואל רוזנמן, chairman of the March of Living, שגריר ישראל לפולין, מר צבי רבנר, Chief of the General Staff of the Polish Armed Forces, my friend General Cheniuk, who I am very much appreciative of your marching us together with us today. Ambassador Roland Lauder, Mr. Frank Lowy, נכי ופצועי צה"ל, חבריי למטה הכללי ומפקדי צה"ל, עדים במדים, עד המשלחת אשר אוד, משלחות צה"ל וכוחות הביטחון, חיילי צה"ל כאן ובארץ, participant of the March of the Living, all of those present here, member of the Jewish people, אזרחי ישראל, citizens of the world. You are as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Each and every one of you, members of our nation and its friends, Jewish and non-Jewish alike, you are the living proof of the victory of light, the victory of morality, the triumph of Israel. That from the destruction of the Holocaust, we grew stronger as a nation and stronger as a people. Every youth and adult that stands here, wrapped in the Israeli flag, is part of the revival. Every Holocaust survivor that returned to this place taking a step of life past the footprint of death. Every soldier in the Israeli Defense Forces who dons the Star of David as a symbol of pride and not as a symbol of shame is part of this victory, this never-ending triumph. Today, at the last stage of the March of Living at Auschwitz-Birkenau, we are illuminating the next step in our people's great march of life. Now, as always, our brothers and sisters, victims of this horror, are with us and in our hearts. Today, we remember that between the Holocaust and the revival, they took a great step on the path of heroism that continues since the nation's birth to this very day. This route of heroism began with the fleet of a child who stole a loaf of bread for his family in the ghetto dying of hunger, with the mother who shielded her son with her body despite the bullets of the murderers. It continues with the valiant attacks of the partisans, the fighters in the ghettos, camps, and Jewish brigade that stood up against the Nazis and their partners, armed with very simple weapons, but with immense strength of spirit. This is the march of the Holocaust survivors who lived to see the day of their liberation. A march that has crossed seas throughout illegal boats that carried them to the land of Israel. It continues with these survivors joining members of the Jewish settlements to build the state and fighting for its existence and security in the battlefield and the heritage of 7 wars and countless operations, both public and secret, that we have known in our 65 years of independence. את כברת הדרך הזו, במסע הקוממיות של עמנו, אנו סוללים כפרטים שהתחברו לקבוצות, כקבוצות שהתאחדו ללאום, כגוף אחד המורכב מאין ספור בודדים, כחול אשר על שפת הים, שהתגבש באמונה, בצדקת הדרך, בשותפות הגורל, בתקווה. גם היום אנו ממשיכים לסלול את הדרך, גם כאן במצעד הזה, ברגע זה במדינת ישראל, ובדרכו של כל אחד מבני העם היהודי באשר הוא. זהו מצעד החיים של העם הנצח, מערש הולדתנו ועד היום, משואה לתקומה, דרך גבורת ישראל. היום נוכחים בינינו מפקדים השותפים לפרק זה במצעדנו. אלה לוחמים שראו את חבריהם נופלים לצידם בשדה הקרב, כשפעימת ליבם האחרונה פועמת באותה תקווה של הילד מהגטו. המפקדים הללו יודעים כי כל פסיעה במצעד החיים והגבורה עלתה לנו במחיר דמים כבד. הם יודעים, כפי שיודע כל חייל ומפקד בצה"ל, כי אין גבורה כגבורת הלוחמים בקרב. אך לצידה קיימת גם גבורת ההישרדות וכוח הרצון. גבורת היום-יום שקיימה את עמנו דרך זוועות השואה. היכולת לשמור על צלם אנוש בצל האחריות והסבל. בתקופת השואה בלטה הגבורה האנושית של עמנו מול פשיטת הרגל המוסרית של צבא גרמניה. היום אני ניצב כאן כמפקדו של צבא ההגנה לישראל, לעם היהודי, שמעבר להיותו צבא לוחם, דרוך, מיומן ומקצועי, הוא צבא ערכי ומוסרי. הוא צבא שבסיס עוצמתו, הכוח המניע את הטנקים ואת המטוסים המתקדמים ביותר שברשותנו, הוא עוצמת האדם, צלם האנוש. הוא צבאה של מדינה דמוקרטית שבבסיס חוקיה וערכיה כבוד האדם. הוא צבא שמושיט יד לשיתוף פעולה מקצועי בינלאומי עם צבאות העולם המתקדמים אשר חולקים עמו את הרחב. עדות לכך היא צעידתנו המשותפת היום שלי ושל הרמטכ"ל הפולני גנרל צ'ניוק מאושוויץ לבירקנאו. אני עומד כאן כמפקדו של צה"ל בראש ובראשונה במצעד החיים של 2013 ובמצעד חייו של עם ישראל. אך בדרכי לכאן מאושוויץ לבירקנאו אני צועד גם במצעד החיים של משפחתי. אני צועד גם כבנה של מלכה גנץ, זכרה לברכה, שאולצה לרוץ בצעדת המוות למחנה ברגן-בלזן, שם נרצח אביה פשוט משום שלא יכול היה להדביק את הקצב. אני צועד כבנו של נחום גנץ, זכרו לברכה, פליט בתקופת השואה שהעפיל ארצה, לחם למען עצמאותה של המדינה, והקים יחד עם 70 משפחות של שורדי שואה נוספים מושב לתפארת. אני צועד כאן כבנם של בני דור הבונים והמייסדים. כשותף לרויטל, נצר למשפחת לוחמי הגנה ותקומה. כאביהם של ממשיכי מצעד החיים המשפחתי, נועם, ניר, נוגה ונדב, בני המשרת בצה"ל ושנמצא איתי כאן היום. אני צועד כאן כמפקדם ובשמם של ממשיכי מצעד החיים הלאומי, חיילי צבא ההגנה לישראל. My honored friends, by our standing and marching here today, we commit to preserve the memory of the Holocaust, to mark our people's courage as well as the knowledge of the depth of evil to which man can sink. Never again shall a calamity such as this transpire in our world. There shall never be a second Holocaust. We will not forget, nor we will allow it to be forgotten. And we will surely never ever stand again unready to defend ourselves. I do not know what will be the next step in the march of life. Yet it is important to remember that the dove of peace has accompanied us throughout the journey since the covenant of Abraham. But in light of the Holocaust and the thousands of years of struggle for Jewish survival, we know better than to make light of the existential threat against Israel. As a military force at the cutting edge of modern technology and operational capabilities, we know full well that enemy who attempt to harm our civilians are asking for their own demise. Our strength and determination has increased through this long march. Thus, there is no weapon or evil intention which can stand against the army of the Jewish people. היום אני אומר לכם בקול רם וברור, בקולם של רבבות חיילי צה"ל העומדים על המשמר והמדינה, ביבשה, באוויר ובים. אנחנו חזקים מאי פעם. זרועותיו של צה"ל ארוכות וקטלניות משהיו מעולם. הכוונת מדויקת מתמיד. אצבענו שקולה אך נחושה על ההדק. למדנו את הלקח. אנו מוכנים ונכונים להתייצב מול מבקשי רעתו של העם היהודי ולנצח. רק כך נמשיך את המצעד. כי אין מגן אחר לדוד ואין חומה אחרת לציון. יהי זכרם של 6 המיליונים ברוך. תהא דרכנו הממשיכים לצעוד לאור זכרם, צעד אמיץ נוסף ומחייב במצעד החיים.
Torches will now be lit in memory of the victims of the Holocaust and in honor of those who resisted Nazi tyranny during these dark times. I would like to call by name the torchlighters, and at the time of my calling their names, the theme from Schindler's List will be played. The Mayor of Saloniki, Greece, Mr. Yanis Boutaris, the Deputy Mayor, Mr. Hastai Kapon, Mrs. Tami Hausner-Rave, Mr. Michael Miki Gilad, David, Peter, and Stephen Lowy, Ambassador Ronald Lauder, Phyllis Greenberg Heidemann, Vladimir Slutsker, and Asher Od. To light the first torch, I call upon the Mayor of Saloniki, Greece, Mr. Yanis Boutaris, and Deputy Mayor, Mr. Hastai Kapon, a child of survivors, a member of the second generation. The second torch will be lit in memory of the 1.5 million innocent children murdered by the Nazis in the Holocaust. The torch will be lit by Ambassador Ronald Lauder, President of the World Jewish Congress, escorted by Phyllis Greenberg Heidemann. third torch will be lit in honor of the survivors who began their lives again, established new families, and picked up the pieces of their shattered world after suffering through the unspeakable horrors of the Holocaust. The torch will be lit by Tammy Hausner-Rave, chairperson of Channel 2 News Israel, daughter of Gideon Hausner, chief prosecutor at the Eichmann trial, and Michael Miki Gilad Goldman, survivor and chief inspector at the 06 unit of the police and chief assistant at the Eichmann trial. The fourth torch will be lit in memory of the 6 million Jews whose lives were taken from them in the Shoah, in memory of the millions of other innocent civilian victims of World War II, and in honor of the millions of soldiers and resistance fighters who gave their lives fighting for freedom. The torch will be lit by David, Peter, and Stephen Lowy, grandchildren of the late Hugo Lowy. The fifth torch will be lit in honor of all the minorities murdered by the Nazis during the Holocaust, including those with disabilities. The torch will be lit by Vladimir Slutsky, President of the Israeli Jewish Congress. The last torch will be lit in honor of the State of Israel, where the Jewish people were reborn from the ashes of the Holocaust. The torch will be lit by Lieutenant General Benjamin Benny Gantz, Chief of Staff of the IDF, accompanied by Mr. Asher Ud, a survivor of Auschwitz. I would like to ask Ambassador Ron Lauder to share his thoughts with us at this time.
At least where I'm standing, it's warm. I look out, I see a sea of young people. You are our hope. You are our future. I lit the fire for the 1.5 million young people who perished. We'll never know what great things they could have done. But you can do great things. Today, throughout the world, the possibilities are endless. However, at the same time, we have watched throughout the world the rebirth of anti-Semitism. We have a major fight ahead to let people know, particularly young people who are talking about anti-Semitism, that there is no room in this world for anti-Semitism. We must do everything we can to fight it, and particularly those parties that are standing up and talking about anti-Semitism, anti-Israel. They are against everything we stand for. You are our future.
let the memory of 1.5 million be your mantle of power for the future. Am Israel Chai. Thank you.
I would like to ask the torchlighters to please sit down. Thank you. I would now like to call upon Chazan Shimon Farkas to recite the El Ma'aleh Rachamim, the traditional Jewish prayer for our departed ancestors, to be followed by the Mourner's Kaddish, which will be led by a few of the Holocaust survivors who were all children during the years of the Shoah and who have accompanied us on the March of the Living. Please rise.
בידי הנאצים ועוזריהם יימח שמם. ומה עשו ונפשם על קידוש השם. בעבור שיענו מתפללים לעילוי נשמותיהם. לכן בעל הרחמים rein beseder knafav le'olamim v'terror b'terror achayim et nishemot aveihem began Eden tehem menuchatam Adonai hu nachalatam ve'yanuchu v'shalom al mishkeroteihem v'nomar Amen.
My name is Max Globin. I'm a survivor of the Warsaw Ghetto, Budzin, Mielec, Wieliczka, Flossenburg, and a dead march to Dachau, liberated by the United States Army. I'm also a Korean veteran. We will now recite the Kaddish for the 6 million innocent victims that do not have anybody to say the Kaddish after them, and for all our families that we lost too numerous to count. Iskadal ve'iskadash shemei Rabbah be'alma divrach kirutei ve'yamlich malchutei
V'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Israel ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'imru Amen.
Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach
leolam uleolmei olmaya יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעולמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים טובים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
Thank you. Please remain standing. Toda. Thank you. We conclude the 2013 March of the Living Yom HaShoah ceremony with the singing of Ani Ma'amin, followed immediately by the singing of Hatikva, the national anthem of Israel, led by the Chazanim, Dudu Fisher, and the March of the Living Children's Choir. and Neshama Karlebach.
Ani ma'amin, ani ma'amin, ani ma'amin, be'emunah sheleima, be'viyat HaMashiach, be'viyat HaMashiach, ani ma'amin, ve'af al pi she'yitmameya, im kol ze ani ma'amin, ani ma'amin, ani ma'amin, ani ma'amin, be'emunah sheleima, be'viyat HaMashiach, be'viyat HaMashiach, ani ma'amin, ve'af al pi she'yitmameya, im kol ze ani ma'amin, ani ma'amin, ani ma'amin, ani levav pe'ima, nefesh Yehudi homiya, ulefatei mizrach karima, ayin le'tzion Sophia.
תפילת מנחה. אשרי יושבי ביתך עוד יעללו חסלה, שם שקרא לו השם שם. תהילת אדוני דבר פיו יברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד. ואנחנו נברך יה מעתה ועד עולם, הללויה. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעולמה דברה חירותי, וימליך מלכותי, וישמח פורקני, ויקרב משיחי. חייכונו יומכונו וחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעולמה ואמרו אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו אלוהי אברהם אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא, האל עליון גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ומביא גואל לבני בניהם למען שמו ויהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיים מתים אתה רב להושיע מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים וחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. נקדישך ונעריצך כנו המשיח צורך וקדש המשלשים לך קדושה ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלך כבודו. לעומתם משבחים ואומרים ברוך כבוד אדוני מקומו, ובדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור, הללויה. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים וכל יעללו חסלה, כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. ולמה שנמרתי? מעולם שנים קדמוניות. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעולמה דברה חירותי, וימליך מלכותי ויצמח בוקני ויקרב משיחי, חי יכונו וימי יכונו וחי לכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב.